Hey, friends out there. This is Thursday, August 24th, 2023. And it is just about 5:40 in the morning here in Northern California. And as usual, I'm going to talk about a few different things today. I hope everybody's doing as well as they can in a crazy-ass world run by maniacal, money-loving madmen bent on misery for masses, my friends. Yes, and every one of us gets caught up in their web. We're all stuck on this ship of fools that they're steering. A tiny critical mass of the population. But their power lies in their defiance to their own conscience, to God, to their soul. And that's why they have an advantage, which is, anybody in their right mind that has an inkling of godly instinct, a modicum of godly instinct, then you understand that you value these invisible things very much. What gives people their boundaries in life? It's a conscience. And you may have issues like everybody else, but you've got them on a leash. You've got boundaries for a reason. You choose to have boundaries. You choose to value your conscience, your soul. Your heart, your mind, your essence, your true being, and it's normal. It's a godly instinct we all have. And when we go against it, it hurts. It's painful. It feels like separation from truth, knowing that we are not living up to all that we can be. And do we know all that we can be? Have we ever tried to imagine it? We're all under a distinct handicap because of this fall, this original sin. So we're all working out behind the eight ball as human beings. We're born into a body of death. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. That's a huge part of what is talked about in Scripture, and the whole promise being that if we care about the right things, we have the right values, the right belief systems, we will inherit a better world and an infinitely better body, one that can't be threatened by anything. Having all, you can't take anything good away from that body. Our five senses, we got to have that, the sense of touch and all that. So it's got to be as physical as perfect. It's got to be a perfect body, right? So, these are great promises to anybody that says, hey, something really sucks about this life. What's hanging over people's head day in and day out, just organically, across the board. Nobody can escape it, right? So it's tough enough just being human, much less having these apparently, evidently, conscienceless people that have utterly subdued or forsaken, minimally compromised their conscience and said, hey, for the love of money, I'm willing to do this, that, and the next thing, which gives me a huge advantage over the multitudes, the masses that are unwilling to do those things. But I can convince enough people among the masses, infiltrate them like a disease with minions that have caught the same disease, this love of money disease, that flies in the face of God's goodness and just everything. It's a competitor. It's a nemesis. It's an enemy of God's money because of the way it steals away. It's so enticing and alluring. And it vies for the attention and affection that otherwise belongs only to our owners, the Creator God Almighty, the nature of who is male and female. They created us. Our ancestors made the wrong choice. They disobeyed. That's where that awful, awful sense of separation we all understand comes from. People get depressed and all that. I mean, who doesn't understand sadness, grief, sorrow? I mean, I'm lamenting constantly that I can't enjoy my good fortune because I know there's better men and women than me, suffering needlessly, out in the cold, desperately poor to the point of homelessness, needing help. Where's the outreach? This Christian nation, the richest nation in the world, $32 trillion in debt. And they're making the poor pay it through this hidden tax known as the cost of living. So they keep raising the tax, diluting the money. Anything you dilute goes further, right? And putting it on the backs of the poor. The desperately poor paying the biggest price with their literal blood, their lives. And then they go up the chain and just scare the hell out of people, really struggling, just petrified at the next rent increase because they know that's probably the straw that's going to break the camel's back. And now it's them living out on the street. We're sick. We're a sick nation. This didn't happen overnight. This took a long time. My whole life I've been watching it unfold. And I just thank God that I don't live in a period of history when there was going to be a bloody revolution. I don't believe that. I believe we're living in the times Daniel talked about. That's why I say we're down to the wire here. It's the hand of God, the finger of God working through people, uniting us, helping us to understand and be empowered by the knowledge that we've got one whole hell of a lot more in common as human beings, male and female, okay, than we have out of common. And unifying and saying, this is for the interest, forget it, my life is perfect. I'm financially secure. I'm financially free. I'm prosperous. Listen, I'm doing this for somebody else because I want to enjoy my good fortune. And I cannot, in all good conscience, do that while better men and women than me. And let's just be, err on the side of safety here, okay? And presume that there is indeed better men and women than us. Jesus Christ said, hey, that's him. Whatever we do or fail to do, as a people, as a society, collectively and individually, and speaking out at least in behalf of these people, the downtrodden, praying for them, praying for some relief. They're hemorrhaging out. They need relief the most. For God's sake, we want to be happy. It's about pleasing God, not about pleasing ourselves. This is when we discover that, then we're on the right track. We're on the right path. Okay, and then you realize, hey, anything short of that, it's just selfishness. And selflessness and selfishness are one and the same. So there's no escaping this caring about our brothers and sisters, this deep and profound caring. This is what the love is. This is what we must do. And if we don't do it, we're failing the simple commands that Christ gave us. When he said his yoke is easy, his load is light, it is. The golden rule. Love God above all else. That's reasonable. Well, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't know what love was. We wouldn't know the cuteness of a puppy dog or a kitty cat or a child, okay? Or anybody else. We wouldn't be able to see it in ourselves. We wouldn't recognize something beautiful from something that's not. Our five senses. We wouldn't know how pleasant the sense of touch was. Or sight, sound, taste, smell. We wouldn't know any of those things. So, of course, love God above all else. We wouldn't, we wouldn't have life. This great thing called human existence. But with this one gigantic, glaring flaw, this thing we call death, it's got to go, and that's the promise. In fact, there'll be a whole generation still alive as crazy as it sounds, at the return of Christ. I mean, what isn't crazy? Look at the universe around you. Just look at the science that's proven. The, what the astronomers can teach you about the universe and blow your freaking mind about all the galaxies and it's just and all the solar systems, the planets within every galaxy, habitable planets, like Drake's equation, 500,000 or something, 500 million maybe. Look it up for yourself, Drake's equation, that are habitable, estimated, in our galaxy alone. I mean, so God is wild. God to me is like a big kid that's just having fun, just wants to share. Why not be generous when you could create anything at all? You can manifest out of thin air. Life, I mean, with all our great creation on earth, all the infrastructure and technology, it can't hold a candle to the biological creation. The flora and the fauna is out of sight, man. I mean, God, the dinosaurs, God was having fun. He and he's made us in his image and likeness, her, she, he and she. They created us in their image and likeness. We're very special, very unique, virtually unlimited, inexhaustible imaginations. Anything we can imagine, we can make manifest. We've proven that over and over. So the idea that we can't manifest a society where every man, woman, and child is free from birth is absurd. It's preposterous, but yet we all tend to buy that, at least to some degree, hook, line, and sinker. And then we castigate those that don't, the misfits out there. Often it's the homeless, the sages, those that don't fit in, that just have given up. They're despondent. They're depressed. They feel neglected, worse than animals. And then you wonder why they behave so badly sometimes. How would you behave? Jesus Christ said that's him. We call ourselves a Christian nation, the richest nation. We're shipping in all these poor refugees from other nations. That's great. Let's bring everybody in, but in an orderly fashion that makes sense. That's fair. That's at least first come, first serve. I mean, here we live in a society where we're willing to spend here in California. The last I looked on Google, I think it was $106,000 a year to keep one prisoner in jail, one inmate, one criminal in jail for 1 year. That much. And the vast majority of the crime is committed because of financial desperation. So you tell me where any of this makes sense, where it's logical, where it's intellectually sound, where there's any kind of argument at all in behalf of the status quo, of the establishment. It's absurd. The secular world system is lost in space, and if you just go with them, man, you're going to get lost in space, man. These people are going, listen, put yourself in God's position. You got all these kids that want to just live and let live and be content and fair in your society. Play the game fairly, at least. And all these other kids that are bullies, their argument doesn't make any sense, but might makes right in their mind, and the might is in the money, and they control the money. Okay, a critical mass, just look up the term. It can mean whatever the amount is to get the job done, basically. So a tiny amount of the population in America is controlling, is steering the ship. With that tiny rudder, you can steer a ship with. This ship, you understand? So our welfare is literally someone else's welfare. And we've got to understand that. We've got to. I mean, we've got to evolve away from money, but these people will not let it. They'll fight tooth and nail to stay relevant. And the way they stay relevant is making us need more and more of their product. Their product being